Obviously, we are heading into an election year. The campaigning has long been underway for the 2024 presidential election. Prior to us filming this, they had the first Republican candidate debate that was missing a very visible figure in former President Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure he was in one of the states that was indicting him, trying to handle his legal issues or whatever. But he's also basically said he will not participate in any of the debates, correct?
So far, yes.
Yeah, I believe that was like a statement. He's like, man, not doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he doesn't need to.
Okay. Well, and he actually sat down with a good friend of his, Tucker Carlson, on his podcast network or platform, right? Because Tucker has his own
Twitter.
thing. Is it just, okay, so it's just
Twitter.
on Twitter?
It's Tucker on X.
Okay. Tucker on X. I love it. I'm here for it. Whatever. That's the beauty of First Amendment and social media platforms. Everybody's got a voice. And he did a recent episode with him, and you were blown away by how many views, likes, and how much engagement this sit down with former President Trump and Tucker Carlson received in 48 hours, right? We're talking about hundreds of millions of views, hundreds of thousands of likes, hundreds of thousands of reposts and shares. I'm not super surprised by that because I know, following his 4 years in office and then everything after January 6th and even in the last 3 years, you know what I mean? How ravenous his fans are.
I mean, for me, it's we're back to, the choice of the better of two evils. So, at what point do the American people support him over who they would normally support? I mean, I think he's starting to glean support from both sides.
From both sides?
Yeah, because the Democrats can't even decide who's going to run for president yet. Mm-hmm. I mean,
Didn't Joe Biden announce that he was running?
Yeah, but it's not, there's a lot of people in the Democratic Party that don't want him to run.
I feel you.
So, I mean, yeah, Trump had more support in the Republican Party in 2016, but they're coming around quick. They're jumping on the bandwagon quick. I mean, is it the best candidate? I think he's got the best chance of getting elected.
And those are two different things.
Yes.
That's a fantastic point to make. And as scary as it is for me to say it, I wholeheartedly agree with you. When this man says he will run for president from jail if he has to, I believe him. And he will get votes. And he will get a lot of them.
I talked to some friends in Georgia that are staunch Democrats. Mm-hmm. Staunch. And they don't want to vote for Biden. Mm-hmm. And they don't want Kamala. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you? That's pretty scary. That's pretty scary. And then you have candidates like the guy I pointed out to you, Vivek, who is running on common sense, which is not going to get him elected, but it makes a lot of sense. He's running on let's fix the problems. And nobody, it's like, who's picking these candidates that they're putting in front of us?
Here's the problem, and I think this is what we were talking about before we jumped into the podcast. What does that say about the American people? What does that say about American voters if you have a candidate who's running who is speaking to every point of concern that we have? Because he is. I've seen a lot of what he has to say, and I agree with some of his things. Some of the things I'm not the hugest fan of, but that's the point of, weighing out candidates, right? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to listen to what they have to say on the things that are important to you, and then you go from there. You figure out who is going to,
and some of the things that should be important to everybody.
Facts. That's where my bigger point of concern comes from, is that it's no longer, am I frustrated that we don't have younger blood running for office? 100%. Am I frustrated that we don't have better options? 100%. Am I frustrated when I watch a congressional hearing and everybody sitting on the bench is 85 or older and looking like literally at any moment they could die? You know what I mean? That's scary because honestly, what kind of decisions are you making for the future? If you know you're looking at 10 years or less, what do you care what happens in this country?
You know what
20?
they're doing? They're bolstering their trust for their family.
When you really think about it that way, these old geezers sitting in Congress, sitting in Washington, voting on these very important issues, they're going to be dead before they actually feel the impact of the things that they voted on, right? Like Mitch McConnell will be long gone, and we will still be dealing with the setbacks to our judicial system that he put in place when he replaced over a quarter of our federal judges with 45-year-olds that have lifetime appointments, right? While we were sitting here arguing over Russian collusion and over which stripper Donald Trump banged or didn't bang and who he paid off. Like, they were sitting there like, yeah, entertain the monkeys, you know what I mean? Entertain the kiddos. Entertain the animals, and then we'll figure it all out.
That's what our society has become.
100%, and we fall for it. But as much discord as social media has created, you don't really get plausible deniability anymore, right? Because at some point in time, even if you don't agree with it, even if you think it's the biggest crock of crap, you think it's a conspiracy theory, you've seen it. You should know at this point that the conversation is being had, right? Like, I don't know. You don't get to say, oh, my head was in the sand anymore.
Let me ask you a question. How are you going to choose to vote? You see, this is the quintessential question for people is, how are you going to choose who you vote for?
Well, here's the deal, though, Len, and you and I have discussed this, and if you talk to an economist, right, most of them will tell you the president doesn't really determine the economy, right? It's cyclical. So you have to pay attention to what was happening before, what was happening after. Now, I know there's some points when a presidential election, if it doesn't go the way it's supposed to, or if there's some sort of upheaval, it can cause unrest in the markets. Obviously, we know that but usually those can correct.
You're talking about the stock market.
Yeah.
But general economy overall, and especially in the United States, runs on logistics. Mm-hmm. So when you have an economy that runs on logistics, the price of oil really affects your economy. Because everything in this country moves by truck or train, which relies on fuel. So when you hike the price of fuel, UPS hikes the price of shipping.
But we don't, unfortunately, we don't control the fuel prices.
The president does. The Congress and
we don't control what OPEC charges us.
It has nothing to do with OPEC. That has to do with the pipeline that they've been fighting over for the Keystone Pipeline, which has been a debate. Obama shut it down.
How can you say that the Middle East has no impact on our oil prices when every time there's something that happens they raise the price of oil?
They have an impact on our oil prices. And the reason they have an impact on our oil prices, and here's a stat you can look up, Kimmy. There's more oil under the United States than Saudi Arabia. So people here are being prohibited from drilling, or like the Keystone Pipeline, which would come through and bring fuel, crude oil down. Gets stopped. It gets so when you have a Republican president, no matter who it is, they're opening up and letting more stuff happen for.
And we usually end up paying for that long term because deregulation always ends up costing us.
Listen,
in some way, shape, or form.
Deregulation and
2008
and figuring out a happy medium is two different things. Now. Because what happens is one person has it running, the next person shuts it down. Running, shut down. Running, shut down. There's no medium there. There's no. Okay, well, it's going to impact this. Okay, well, let's figure out how to moderate that.
Sometimes that happens because the is so dire that literally your only option is to shut it down and completely rebuild it. We saw that in 2008. That was kind of
that was the banking system. Yeah,
that was handed over to President Obama at the time,
listen,
right?
I voted for him twice.
No, I know.
Okay?
No, and
he did a great job of, as far as I'm concerned, he did a great job of getting us out of the deficit where the hole that we were dug into.